Hi, this is Dr. Sean Benzinger with SecondOpinion.org with secrets to vital health. Why you don't look and feel years younger. Dr. Weston Price proved that when a refined diet of Western civilization enters a country, its health starts to decline. So what did Dr. Price end up doing? He went to these countries before a Western diet actually entered them and documented their oral health and their general health. He then went back years later after a Western diet had established itself in those countries and evaluated those countries again as for their general health and found a stunning finding that their health started to decline. Their teeth started to decline. Their membranes in their mouth started to decline. That there was major changes when a diet based upon refined foods such as enriched flour, sugar, cereals, and breads, sodas, chips, and fries. The Great American Diet. When that occurred in those countries, there were specific changes in the well-being of the people that were indigenous to that country. What we know also is it's happening here in this country, and we know that multiple diseases that he documented, such as heart disease, cancer, obesity, diabetes, GI upset, acidic stomach, as well as autoimmune disease, started to advance itself in those countries, as it is in this country. Basically, we eat ourselves into poor health and disease. So the bottom line is, we found that the health counselor in 1991 noted deficiencies. They noted that there was 90% decrease in chromium, 80% decrease in B6, 75% in magnesium, 68% in calcium, 57% in iron, 50% in vitamin A, 45% B1, 41% in vitamin C. So what we noted back then is in 1991 we were having nutritional deficiencies that were being documented by certain studies. When we actually look at nutrients needed for organs such as skin, hair, nails, we found that calcium, copper, fatty acids, manganese, silicon, sodium, sulfur, and zinc are a necessity for the well-being of those tissues. What we know is this: a vitamin and mineral is a vitamin and mineral simply because your body actually needs it on a daily basis. Without it, it starts to lose some of its capacity to function correctly or prevent disease or be healthy. Look at bones. Calcium, copper, fluorine, manganese, magnesium, phosphorus, and silicon needs to be there. And if you look at the brain and the nervous system, calcium, iodine, manganese, magnesium, sodium, phosphorus, potassium, and sulfur need to be present. And considering all the Parkinson's, senile dementia, and all these types of Alzheimer's type of diseases that are occurring in our country today, we have to be very, very concerned if a contributing factor, a susceptibility factor, might actually be that the nutrition of the nervous system is not being met on a consistent basis, which is predisposing it to environmental or other types of conditions. That's a possibility, isn't it? Something to consider. So let's look into why. What we know is diminished nutritional values have occurred because of farming practices in the United States. We know presently that the land in the United States is up to 85% decreased in its nutritional value. In Australia, it's 50%, New Zealand less than that, but they actually replace most of the nutrients that they take out of the land and not just synthetically actually fill them, but that's for another talk. Pesticides, herbicides are being used on an extensive basis, as well as genetically modified plants. Bottom line is, if in fact there is only 15% of the nutrient base left inside the ground itself, the likelihood of nutrition getting into our fruits and vegetables is further and further depleting. And I think we'll be able to prove that as you go along with this seminar. In fact, I'm relatively confident that we'll be able to prove that the nutritional value of the fruits and vegetables that we have are documented by our agriculture department to be diminished, and that we are going to have problems in the future. What we know at this point is pesticides and herbicides play a role in killing many of the things such as worms and stuff like that that make our ground actually healthy and nutritious. We also know that we harvest our foods much earlier than we did before. It travels up to 1,300 miles on average, which means we harvest it earlier and earlier with less and less nutrition in it. Then we've got processing, and then we've got packaging and pre-treatment to it so that it stays for a longer period of time on the shelf before we actually eat it. Bottom line is nutrition suffers and suffers and suffers. We know that packaging and storage is a big issue. And remember, 1,300 miles this travels on average across our country before it actually gets to your tables. Now, that's not just local fruits and vegetables. We know that that's something we want you to do more of. When you can eat local, eat local. Reason why? It has a bigger and bigger health benefit to you when you do those types of things, okay? So realizing that all these changes make a difference in your nutritional value. Look at the Senate document in Senate Document 267 in 1936. It says 99% of North Americans are deficient in vital nutrients. Then it says no matter how much of these foods we eat, these foods are starving us. Then it makes the comment of to the human body, vitamins without minerals are useless. And then unfortunately in 1936 it says, it is a proven scientific fact that mineral deficient foods lead to disease. Now, we knew about this then in 1936, and if that's true, why haven't we been working on that as a priority? Because you have to have vitamins and minerals for good health. The following are just two vegetables that were evaluated first in 1963 by our agriculture department. Thank God for them. They actually evaluated some of the nutrients that we knew of back then that were important, manganese and magnesium and calcium and all those types of vitamin A and C, etc., etc. And then in 2000, they ended up remeasuring. Unfortunately, the information that we found was frighteningly low in nutritional values. So what we ended up finding was the following. If you look at just collard greens demonstrated a 61% decrease in vitamin C, 41% vitamin A. Calcium was 28% down. Potassium, heart disease, big deal, 51%. And magnesium, again, heart disease, big deal, 84% decrease. And then we go on, unfortunately, to corn. Vitamin C decreased 41%, vitamin A 29%, calcium 33%, potassium 3%, and magnesium, again, for the heart health, again, 22%. When you look at these statistics, vitamin A and vitamin C we know is very important as an antioxidant to help fight off heart disease, cancer, and other types of free radical induced disease processes. Well, if you're not getting them in your food, where are you getting them? When we look at organic versus conventional foods, the organic foods showed in this study boron was 70% higher. Well, if you have osteoporosis or are predisposed to it, this is a big deal. Boron is showing some positive signs to help that condition. Calcium 63%, chromium 78%, copper 48%, iodine 73%, iron 59%. Just in those elements, we know that diabetes, obesity, heart disease could be affected as well as bone health. We go a little bit further and we see lithium. You not think of that as an important element, but it really is to the health care of your body. Magnesium, 138%, phosphorus down 91%, potassium, 125%, and nickel, 66%. Here's the thing that really bothers you, is when you look at conventionally grown, toxic minerals were found. Aluminum, 40% up, cadmium, 5%, lead, 29%, mercury, 25%. Well, we all know that those are unhealthy to have in our food groups. So the bottom line is we have to be careful how we shop and what we eat and what it means to our health. If nutrients are not in the ground, how do we get them in our food? Bottom line, how do we get them in our food? If they don't exist in the ground, how likely are they to be in the food? And the whole thing is, I'm the first to say that supplementation is important, but it is not the end all and frankly should not be the only thing that you consider. And here's our concern. Here's my concern that I'm presenting to you. 3 square meals is out. Anyone who tells you that is only because they're uneducated and they have not stayed up with the times. Experts started talking about this long ago. In fact, what we found out is the U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Thomas Perrin, almost 40 years ago, stated the following. We have learned of the virtues of milk and green vegetables, of fish liver oils, so rich in vitamin A and D, of the vitamins C in citrus fruits. In spite of this, every survey by whatever method and whatever measurement shows that malnutrition of many types is widespread and serious among the American people. Dr. Perrin was correct and was drawing key attention to this issue 40 years ago. In fact, in 1988, one of the more recent studies that were actually done Other surgeon generals have followed suit, saying basically the following: poor diets can cause nutritional deficiency and is a primary concern causing major disease in the United States of America. Now you tell me, if somebody said to you, here is the cost of major disease, here's the likelihood to be able to take your life savings away from you just trying to stay well, and if you do this, you probably, most likely, will make a big dent in that disease process, I bet you would listen a little bit more than you did in the past. What we know is, look at the recommended daily allowances. The reason why is recommended daily allowances, recommended daily intake. Don't get confused by that. The reason why is because that's what most all the standards are set by. But you're going to find some alarming facts about what an RDI and an RDA is. And the reason why it's an alarming fact is majority of the recommended daily allowances for humans was based upon animal studies. In fact, the majority of the animal studies were on rats. In other words, a rat bioassay is how human daily nutritional needs were developed years ago. That would concern me if my nutritional wherewithal, as well as my family's wherewithal and health, was dependent upon rat assays. Now that's not true of vitamin C, as well as a few others, to give them credit. There was some individuals that were on death row that they determined that scurvy could be prevented by certain levels of vitamin C. So that is true. But how accurate can it be? And I'm not sure my well-being is going to be entrusted to a rat. And how sure can I be that the rat's right? So can I trust the rat? I'm choosing not to trust the rat and make some better choices by educating you and continuing on my own plight of learning more and more about these things. Because the more I learn, the scarier it gets, and the more I am of the opinion that there's certain action steps you have to take for your well-being. The bottom line is prevent disease, not treat it. It's too expensive, too costly, and too timely. One of the problems is recommended daily allowances. The problem is you get all the nutrients you need from food produced in this modern day. You may not get that. Bottom line is probably you don't. In fact, I believe it is almost impossible. In fact, the RDI reflects the amount necessary for prevention of nutrient diseases, but not to thrive. And so the RDI does not address optimal health, it just addresses disease prevention. In the National Academy of Sciences, in the 9th edition, they said RDAs are recommended for the average daily amounts of nutrients that population groups should consume over a period of time. RDAs are not to be confused with requirements for specific individuals. Differences in the nutrient requirements of individuals are ordinarily unknown. Bottom line is unknown. In fact, it's virtually impossible to be able to eat enough good food to reach even the RDIs. In fact, if we look at it, Sherry Lieberman did some studies and found that on average you have to eat about 2,500 calories per day of really quality foods just to be able to reach the RDAs and RDIs. Now remember, the RDAs and RDIs do not help you thrive or handle stress or deal with the stress of society as well as today, as well as what you deal with day to day, work, lack of sleep. Bottom line is you have to almost eat a perfect diet at 2,500 calories just to have a chance to have the nutrition necessary to remember all those organs that need all that nutrition. You don't get it one day, you don't get it 10 days, you don't get it 2 months, you don't get it 5 months. It can make a big difference in the disease process in your body. That we know statistically even from 1936. In fact, the average weight loss program is 1,500 to 2,200 calories. Unfortunately, some of them even less than that. So if you need 2,500 or perfect and you're not even close, guess what? Nutrition deficiencies are really running rampant. In fact, diets don't take into consideration lifestyles, food preferences, ethnic habits, inaccurate and outdated charts, and availability of nutrients in the food. Nutrient levels in the food today are just not what they should be, and shipping, processing, cooking methods, as well as storage can make a huge difference in the wherewithal and benefit of eating those types of foods. So the bottom line is you're probably not getting it, so you're going to have to do something about it. When we look at the quality of foods themselves beyond the shipping and cooking and some of the other factors that make a big difference, and bottom line is you have to remember when you're cooking foods, if you're not making good choices of how you cook those foods, you might have done everything right and then torch it right at the end before it gets to your mouth. Well, let's look at the quality of foods such as whole fruits and vegetables. Let's take apples. When they sit there for a long period of time and have traveled a long way, vitamin C can fall by 2/3, potatoes by 2/3, Canned foods may lose up to 50% of their nutritional value if in fact they've been blanched, and frozen foods may lose 25% of their nutritional value. So the bottom line again, you see the bottom line keeps not looking very good for the nutritional value that's necessary for you to stay healthy. You got to, as an American, start thinking about why is everybody in every family, every family has got one member with a very severe disease, and frankly, many times early on in their health. I mean, we've got 3-year-olds and 5-year-olds and 10-year-olds suffering from things that, frankly, has more to do with the quality of nutrition and food that they put in their mouths than it does anything else, and environmental exposures too. I'll keep that in mind. But even look at the green vegetables. Once they've sat on the shelf for a period of time, they might have almost no nutritional value. Have you ever wondered why they add vitamin C to orange juice? Why would they have to add vitamin C to orange juice? Orange juice already has vitamin C, right? No. By the time they've they ended up squeezing out the juice and ended up packaging it and processing it, there's so much loss of the vitamin C. Guess what they do? They put extra vitamin C in it. Unfortunately, they're putting in just ascorbic acid. The truth of the matter is that's not vitamin C. And later in our nutritional educational series, that will be part of secondopinion.org, just know every week you're going to be able to get some of this information and turn around your knowledge base to be able to help you, hopefully, save your own life. At least change the quality of that life. Are there nutritional deficiencies really? Well, in the 1970s, the data indicated that there were significant portions of the population with more than one nutritional deficiency on a daily basis. In fact, there was a request. 10 nutrients were requested to be added to the food chain. At that point, the FDA did turn it down at that point. But the truth of the matter is, in 1970, we had 2 groups saying, hey, we got some significant problems. And here's the other thing. Biochemical individuality. Almost no one has the exact need for each nutrient. One may need 10 times the vitamin C, and Dr. Sharaskin's evaluation found that multiple nutrient deficiencies, even if the sex, age, race was identical, occurs. In other words, one might need 10 times the amount of B6 that the other person does, and they might be identical twins. So finding and meeting your unique needs are really going to be important for you to realize that you're going to have to really put in some effort to get this done. Without knowing, you're going to end up with deficiencies. And because you're unique, finding and meeting that unique need may make the difference between good health and long-term, potentially bad health. Or more importantly, making you susceptible to conditions that don't need to occur. Remember that most diseases, when we look at it, 5% has to do with your genetics. 95% has to do with what you do to take care of this being from the time you're born. Don't be misled with the idea that it's all genetic and I can't do anything about it. Anybody who says that, just say, hey, come on, you need to watch this and wake up. That's not true. Most diseases, 5% related to genes, 95% of the time based upon what you do about it. Okay? Now we see the experts stepping up. Multiples are needed. Dr. David Haber of UCLA says, hey, they need multiple vitamins and minerals, and they probably need A, E, and also some calcium. And Dr. Walter Willard of Harvard recommended a multiple vitamin for most of the population. So we're seeing changes in these areas, but here was one that was amazing. Even though we backed off of it a little bit, Journal of American Medical Association said all adults should take a multiple vitamin. Okay, that surprised me. In their summary, they stated that a large portion of the general population has a less than optimal intake of a number of vitamins, and putting them at risk for cardiovascular disease, cancer, and osteoporosis. Remember the beginning of our program. Rewind it, look at it again. What did it talk about? These issues are predisposed when nutritional deficiencies are not met. So get it through our heads. We're probably not doing it. We're not even close. Just every day that little cheaty snack, you're probably moving away from good health. Annette Dickinson, Council of Responsible Nutrition, she's well respected in this area. There is no question that the amount of scientific evidence in favor of consistent use of vitamins, particularly multiple vitamins, is formidable and should be taken seriously. Bottom line is, we have to take this seriously. It's going to make a big difference in your wherewithal if you are nutritionally supported. Now, taking vitamins and not eating a good diet absolutely won't work. So get that out of your mind. It doesn't work. You might even know it doesn't work. But here's the problem. We've known all this for a good period of time. How many people have suffered? How many people have been devastated by disease or disease processes during this time? And we've known since 1936 in a Senate document that we were concerned about it. But the problem with it is that's not where we concentrate our efforts in healthcare. We want to get it, we end up with a disease or a symptom, we try to treat that condition, and it never seems to get well, we just have to treat it forever. Factors needing nutrition beyond what you're getting at this point is mental and physical stress, you know about that, and disease disorders. So what we know is pneumonia can burn up to thousands of milligrams of vitamin C per hour. Drugs, a majority of the OTC, over-the-counter, and prescription medications can increase your need for utilization of nutrients, such as cholesterol-lowering drugs. They can cause malabsorption of A, B1, D, E, K, and folic acid. You probably weren't even told that, were you? In The Aging, Dr. Dickinson told us that about half the sick days that the elderly actually experience could be eliminated with the right nutritional support. Can you imagine the millions, if not billions of dollars that this could affect us? When you're talking about your mother and father, grandmother, grandfather, if you knew this, wouldn't you make a bigger effort of making sure that the quality of food that they get and how they take care of themselves changes a little bit, because you know that they'd have less sick days and better quality of life? That's a big deal, isn't it? Something to consider. When we look at the aging itself, well, we know that organs work less efficiently. In fact, a survey, if we already know that, a survey of 14 nursing homes demonstrated that not one meal reached the RDAs. Not a single meal. That is devastating, isn't it? Now, that doesn't mean that all of them are that way, but if we're setting the standard so low as an RDA or an RDI, and it doesn't thrive against disease, and they do have diseases, then you know that nutritionally we need to reassess and reevaluate and get that nutritionist in there and get this thing moving forward. We found another study that highly educated older people, 86% women and 85% men, found that they got less than the RDAs of B6, B12, E, D, folic acid, calcium, and zinc. A lot of them, if you think about it. In fact, the Senate Special Committee on Aging stated essential nutrient inadequacies can lead to adverse effects on nearly all organ systems. So, a big deal? Absolutely. In fact, remember that the RDIs are designed to prevent only deficiency symptoms, not to prevent disease. In fact, vitamins and minerals are used in every process of the body and absolutely must be part of your daily diet, and deficiencies make you pay dues. So when a nutrient is not present, initially malreaction occurs in the cells, and then vitamin stores start to deplete around that area. And then specific enzymes become depleted and slow down and or stop functioning at all. Some cells, their normal functions just stop immediately depending on the nutrient that is lost. So the bottom line is, often these types of subclinical deficiencies are not found by the average doctor because most of the testing does not test for those things until a disease process exists. So often we take it for granted that the blood test and some of the studies that we're going through is screening for those types of things. Often they are just not sensitive to know the early parts of nutritional deficiencies until they express themselves as major disease. So in my humble opinion, vitamins and mineral supplementation is a must for all of us. They may give us extra help in protecting against chronic disease. And isn't that what we're trying to do? If we are unwilling to spend the effort, if you're unwilling to spend the effort and time in preventing the disease, once you get it, sometimes it's just too late. So why don't you look and feel years younger? Even if you try, you may not be able to get all the nutrients necessary for optimal health in the diets present today. And unfortunately, most of us don't eat a very healthy diet in the first place. In fact, many of us aren't even close. And it's absolutely necessary that your body gets those nutrients needed every day to stay healthy and to ward off disease. So how are you doing? Remember, you're unique. The way you're designed and the nutrients needed for your health makes you special and unique. And if you don't pay attention to those issues, if you don't start concentrating on learning more about you and the needs of your body, then the likelihood of stepping back into a condition that doesn't need to be existing is an issue. So, in my opinion, many of the off-the-shelf vitamins are based on old RDI standards and may not carry quality nutrients. Unfortunately, when someone comes into my office and they've said, well, I have this tennis elbow thing or this carpal tunnel thing, I tried B6 and it didn't work, and I unfortunately look at it and I see that there's so many binders that was probably unlikely at their age group that they could have broken down that B6 to get it in their body, and then I give them a simple B6 that I've recommended from another place that I know is high quality, and the condition goes away, then guess what I know is the poor quality nutrient sabotaged this person's recovery. They spent money and time and pain that they didn't have to go through. So making sure that you find a nutrient base that is healthy, is good for you, and actually is put together in a way that's going to be assimilated in your body is important. And you'll be getting that information over secondopinion.org. So in my opinion, if you are not taking nutrients daily, I believe you are likely to be deficient in one or more nutrients necessary for your well-being every day. In other words, I concur. I concur with the Journal of American Medical Association's recommendation for supplementation. I think it's smart. So let's look at the secrets of vital health. And that is to eat organic fruits and vegetables, 6 to 8 servings a day if you can, conventionally grown, 8 to 12 servings based on the information I have. What we know is eliminating trans fatty acids as well as taking in more olive oils are very important. Add in lean meats, whole grains, and good healthy dairy is something I advise heavily. And selecting, again, good quality products in this area and as close to home as possible is wise. Beans and legumes, they're wonderful and healthy for you. Nuts and seeds are wonderful, and lots of water is an absolute must. So let's look at the secrets to vital health. Use of a high quality vitamin and mineral such as Physicians Premium Nutrient Line is a must because of the stringent guidelines for quality like Physicians Premium. They must be followed to ensure that nutrition needs are met and that they're put together with a product that actually works for you. I think that by the time you're done reviewing this entire seminar, evaluation, teaching engagement, you start getting the understanding that unless you are a perfectionist, and so many of us try so hard and it's so difficult, the idea of enriching foods to supply all the nutrients necessary is almost an impossibility. When you take whole wheat and you actually grind it up and you make it into enriched white flour, approximately 26 nutrients have been taken out and only 6 to 8 are added back in. What happened to all the other ones, and how important are those for your life, your child's life, and the well-being of your family in preventing diseases in the future? The truth is, nutritional deficiencies often do not rear their head until months later or years later, but a cumulative effect of just having slight deficiencies on a daily basis can change things drastically. The whole idea of overdosing on vitamins is very unlikely and very difficult to do unless you're taking a wide variety of nutrients that have duplicated some of the same nutrients. And that is something that we will try to teach you about and try to help you prevent by making better choices. I hope that we've gotten clearly the idea that 3 square meals without supplementation and without high quality foods and very perfectionistic as to organic foods eaten on a daily basis and eating those 4 to 8 fruits and vegetables every day in a raw form when possible with lean meats is an absolute must for us to have a chance of well-being. So what's it worth to you? What are you willing to do to make a difference? If it's put off, you will pay heavily later. Why not do everything you can in your power by empowering your life and your family's life of giving yourself a chance of not having to deal with disease later, preventing it and handling it before it ever gets started. Every doctor wants you to do this. Every person wants you to do this. So will you? I ask you, will you join me at secondopinion.org? This is Dr. Sean Benzinger, and may God bless.